I suspect that if the two Marys, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary, were living today, they would be investigative reporters. Or maybe mystics, probably both. Mystics, because they were willing to sit in the darkness, to wait and watch for signs of a living God, even in the face of death. Investigative reporters, because that darkness did not deter them. It seems to me that they were the kind of courageous souls who are more curious than frightened, or who don't let their fear get in the way of finding out how the story ends, or in this case, how it begins. Have you ever wandered through the woods in early spring, turning over the rocks to see what lies underneath? Searched the dank underside for signs of slugs and centipedes and other life forms, or dug into last autumn's dead leaves to discover a tiny green shoot pushing up through the dark earth? Have you ever peeked inside a rotten log, half expecting to see two shiny eyes looking back at you, or startled a squirrel out of hiding? Once, on a family hike, we discovered a hidden geocache inside a fallen tree, a box full of treasures, old buttons, a pirate's coin, a marble, an old-fashioned key. Take something and leave something, said the note inside. So we did. Maybe we're all born with a bit of curiosity that's stronger than fear, at least at first. Offering prayers for those for whom the emergency vehicles are out and about this day, we pause. Maybe we are all born with a bit of curiosity that's stronger than fear, at least at first. Curiosity about what's hiding in the closet, or under the bed, or in other dark corners. For some of us, the fear wins out. We dive under the covers, or stick to the well-lit paths. But there are some who would rather fling open the closet door and grope about in the darkness, determined to investigate, compelled by what they might find. I admire those people, whether they are peering under rocks, checking the closet for monsters, or traveling into war zones in distant lands. Imagine how little we would know about the world, including the world's suffering, were it not for the curious. The people willing to travel, sometimes into the valley of death, to capture the stories and the images that can break our hearts open. Picture a boat full of refugees on the verge of capsizing, a lone baby elephant rescued from poachers, or chalk like dust and rubble where a city block used to stand. Those are all images from the news, images attached to stories about real people and other living creatures. And to learn how they are faring, we rely on those who refuse to run or hide from the ugliness. Those curious, courageous people who are willing to face into the pain, to pull out the magnifying glass a notepad or a camera and bear witness to the world's struggles by saying what happened here and what will happen next. That's what the Marys did. While everyone else ran away, they ran toward the scene of the crime. They were there at the crucifixion. After everyone else had fled, the women remained, holding vigil within view of the cross as Jesus died. Unflinchingly, they bore witness. They saw the man, Joseph of Arimathea, remove the body. They followed him to the tomb and watched him prepare the body for burial, wrapping it in a clean linen cloth. They saw him lay the body inside a cave and roll a massive stone in front of the entrance. And then they went home to mark the Sabbath. But on the first day of the week, 3 days after Jesus died, the two Marys got up early and headed back to the tomb. Perhaps it was the hollowed-out feelings of grief that propelled them down the pre-dawn path and back to his burial site, a needing to be near him just one more time. But I suspect that there was something else that tugged at the edges of their spirits, a nagging sense of anticipation, a wondering what might happen next. You see, these were the same women who accompanied Jesus all along, who had provided for him on the road and who listened to him speak. They had heard him talk about his own death, had heard him say, "I will rise again on the third day." No doubt, they were as baffled by these words as everybody else, but still they had not forgotten. And now the sun was rising, and this was the third day, and so wasn't it worth investigating? Even in their grief, I suspect that they suspected that there was more to the story. And they were not to be disappointed. With costumes and special effects worthy of Lady Gaga, an angel appeared and a flash of blinding light rolled up his glamorous, shimmery white sleeves and rolled away that massive stone, and then sat on top, looking triumphant and, I can only imagine, a bit smug. Cue the soundtrack, "I'm on the Edge of Glory." This is where the more fearful than curious among us head for the hills. Dive under the proverbial covers, or like those two unfortunate Roman soldiers given crack of dawn guard duty, fall over in a dead faint. But not the Marys. Oh no. They stood their ground as the ground shook beneath their feet. They'd already felt the earth moving once, the moment that Jesus died. So maybe they felt more empathy than fear, as the earth mimicked the quaking and breaking of their own hearts. Oh, earth, is your heart breaking too? You see, curious people ask questions when the earth begins to tremble. The angel must have known that the Marys were curious women. Having lifted the rock, he invited them to peer into the darkness for signs of life. Go ahead, take a look. Only this time, there was nothing to see. At least, not in the dank, dark cave. He is not here. He has been raised. Go, tell the disciples, you will see him in Galilee. And the Marys needed no further urging. They went. With fear and great joy they went, undeterred by the spectacle, by the impossibility of it all, by the sheer magnitude of the news. They went, hot on the trail of the scoop of a lifetime. And what was that scoop? That death is no longer real? That pain and suffering have taken the last train for the coast? No. No, we know better than that. We know it in our bones, because some of us have felt the gut-wrenching grief firsthand, or witnessed it. We know, some of us, what it feels like to be trapped in a tomb, unable to breathe because loss or dismay, depression or fear have overwhelmed us. And we've read the headlines and confess that it's hard to wrap our heads and hearts around all that is death dealing in our discombobulated world. Bombs referred to as mothers, gun violence and cancer, famine and opioids, hunger and rage, not to mention loss on a more intimate scale. In the broken promise, the lost job, the damaged relationships, and the ruptured hope, the shattered confidence, or the shattered dreams. It doesn't take an investigative reporter to conclude that 2,000 years after Christ was laid in that tomb, death is still very, very real. What then animated the two Marys? What filled them with such joy, joy enough to overcome fear? Perhaps it was this: the discovery that death is real, but it is not final. Something may yet be hidden under the rock, or beneath all those dead leaves, just waiting and ready to burst forth, a surprising, death-overcoming, life-renewing response to that question: what happens next? Earlier this week, I met another curious, courageous Mary, Sister Rosemary Nairumbi, a nun in Gula, Uganda, who works to restore dignity to the lives of women and children who have suffered the terrors of a decades-long conflict in the South Sudan. Like those other Marys, Rosemary bears witness, unflinchingly, to pain inflicted, to battered bodies, and to battered spirits. She does not look away. She gets to work. In 1976, she rolled up her sleeves and established St. Monica's, a refuge for women and children. There, she teaches the women how to sew. Using the pop-tops from soda cans, woven together with colorful thread, they design gorgeous handbags to sell. I tell the women that they are beautiful like these handbags, she says. And gradually, oh so gradually, the women develop new skills, rediscover self-worth, are coaxed back to life in Sister Rosemary's care. That's what it means to ask, what comes next? It means leaning into the promise that God has more in store for us, more life, more hope, more healing. In the wake of every devastating death, it means saying, what do you suppose is around this corner? I don't know, but I think it's worth checking. Let's go together. Easter people, this is our calling. From this day on, to cultivate holy curiosity, to unflinchingly bear witness to human struggle, our own and others, to recognize that death is real, yes, and then proclaim that it is not final. To practice asking what happens next, and next, and next. What marvel, what unexpected eruption of new life might yet be startled out of hiding? What treasures might yet be unearthed? What beauty discovered? What joy reignited? What lives made whole? Easter invites us to wonder, like the Marys wondered, and then to ask, like Sister Rosemary, what can I do? What can we do to help that new life spring forth? And if, on occasion, you are still tempted to hide under the covers when the earth begins to shake, for surely we all have our days, remember this, that on their way to telling the disciples, the two Marys ran smack dab into the risen Christ himself. That's what happens. Christ Jesus meets us in the middle of the road, mid-journey, arms outstretched, ready to offer all the love and hope and, yes, courage that we need. So grab a hand and a magnifying glass, a pair of binoculars, a camera or a pad, and a pencil. Go forth today to scour the landscape and explore the world. Turn over every rock. Dig into every box of treasures. Keep your eyes peeled for signs of new life. Rejoice in what you find. Rejoice, and then in the face of every heartache, every human struggle, be like the Marys and suspect that there is more to the story. Beloved in Christ, you will not be disappointed.